guys, it's Ollie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Joined with me today is my lovely corn snake Clementine, and we will be doing a corn snake care guide. So, corn snake care guide was one of the first videos I ever filmed. It's garbage, like hot garbage. The care in it's not bad. It's just the filming and the editing is just garbage. So, Clementine here will be helping me make a new one. Also, sorry if like my face is like really fleshed out again and it's like shiny. It's really hot in here and my lighting's not wanting to do the thing I want it to do, so we're just gonna go with it. I think that honestly corn snakes are my favorite thing to keep at this point. I love them. Their native habitat is the southeastern part of the United States, and just look at those colors. She is a normal Moor, but they do come in all kinds of colors. My personal favorite would be an Okatee. Basic, I know, but I love the colors. So that's what she is. She's just a normal Moor. She's just regular. But even as a normal, she is very beautiful. Like, look at all those oranges and reds. Like, they are very pretty snakes. They are called corn snakes for their checkered pattern on their bellies. So if you can see that, it looks like maize, and that's where they get their name corn snakes from. So why are corn snakes such good snakes? Well, they are a beginner snake, so it's very easy to care for, and they're very hardy. Now, when I say a beginner snake, I never mean that they're like a throwaway just for you to get experience. No, I'm saying that their care is relatively easy to other species, and that they are relatively hardy and forgiving if you do make a mistake. Like, if you make a mistake with these guys, it's not going to affect them as much on if you make a mistake with a ball python where they might want a feeding strike. So that's what I mean by beginner. I definitely mean just they're easy. They're easy and hardy and forgiving. Not that you should, you know, just neglect them. I'm just saying if you happen to make a mistake or a miscalculation, they will oftentimes forgive that mistake and will recover. So something about corn snakes that you should also know is that they are more wiggly. Like, they like to move around a lot more. As babies, they're pretty flighty. So they tame down pretty easily, but they are always on the move. So they're not really an animal you can get away with just kind of chilling on your bed with, like you could maybe a ball python or something a little bit more chill. So these guys might be for you if you want more of a lengthy snake. They aren't by any means the longest snake. They're definitely not the girthiest, but they have some good length on them. As adults, they'll get anywhere from about 3 to 5 feet. So some good length on them, but as I said, they're also pretty slender snakes. They will reach this length about 2 to 4 years of age. Snakes never really stop growing, but they do slow down. So snakes grow and they grow and they grow until they pass away, but they do get to a just normal kind of length. Of course, there are super long ones, there are really small ones out there. It all just depends. Yeah, they should reach their full length around that time. Now, as for their lifespan, because that's always important to consider before you even go anywhere else with the care. So corn snakes will live anywhere from 15 to 20 years old in captivity, and I have heard of some specimen that live longer than 20 years old, but that's really rare and probably won't happen, unfortunately. But 15 to 20 years old, you will be responsible for this animal, so think about that before you do get one. Alright, so let's go ahead and get right into the care. Like I said, these guys will get anywhere between 3 and 5 feet typically, so enclosures are super important to talk about. When I first started keeping, the minimum enclosure for an adult would have been a 20-gallon breeder, which is what this is, but that used to be the minimum, and I don't believe that is correct. I believe the bare minimum would be a 40-gallon breeder, which is what I have her in currently. I will probably show you her enclosure here in a little bit, but she is actually getting upgraded within the next month or two. She will be getting much more room. The bigger the better with enclosures. They will use every inch. But the minimum, the bare minimum would be a 40 breeder. Now, if you get them as babies, they are relatively smaller and they're more flighty. So, some people start them out in a 10-gallon to get a feel for them. Definitely a 10-gallon for quarantine. If you need to quarantine your new pet, A 10-gallon for a baby would be fine, a 20-gallon for an adult would be fine for quarantine. However, I personally think that you can house a baby in mostly anything. I mean, as long as you give them like a lot of enrichment and a lot of foliage and a good amount of hides, and you know, you don't mind having to kind of look for them a little bit, then I think even as babies they can thrive. But I also totally get if you want to keep the babies in something smaller so you can monitor them more. But definitely as they get bigger, start your upgrades with them. Now, corn snakes are also known to be escape artists, so you do want to have locks on your enclosure. Something really reliable. She definitely has locks and she always will. So does my other corn snake over here, Timon. So how do you heat their enclosure? Well, first off, we're going to talk temperatures. So you're going to need a gradient in your enclosure, which means one side will be warmer and the other side will be a little cooler. So that way they can just go from one to the other. If they don't feel comfortable in the hot end, they can go cool down, and vice versa, of course. So the cool end should be anywhere between low and mid 70s. Your warm end should be around the low 80s. So how are you going to heat this enclosure? There's a variety of ways. You can get a heat panel, you can get a heat lamp, you can use a heat mat on the bottom. I would more recommend a heat emitter. That might dry out your enclosure a little bit more. So it's just going to depend on your location and the humidity in your enclosure and what you're willing to put into that. We'll get into humidity here in a second. Also, always use a thermostat, because the thermostat's going to regulate the temps, and if you just let, for example, a heat mat or a heat emitter just go, it's going to be catastrophic. It can easily cook your animal. I will actually link something down below. Maddie Smith did a video on like how hot heat mats can get. Very interesting, so I recommend going and watching that. It's super important to use the thermostat. If you don't, you will easily probably just kill your animal. It'll get way too hot. So if you're noticing your corn snakes always on the hot end, then maybe boost up the temp a little bit in the cool end, and vice versa. If they're always in the cool end, maybe bring down the heat on the hot end. Listen to them, they will tell you what they like. I also check their temperatures every day. You want so the way you can check their temps and their humidity is you can get a thermometer hydrometer combo. I can link what I use down below. I actually don't use these as much as I used to. I actually just bought a temp gun, which I can also link down below. That way I can just point it at several places in the enclosure and test everywhere to see where everything's at with temperature. Humidity, you're going to need a hydrometer though, so. So for lighting, you would need like a day and night cycle. They don't technically need UVB because they are crepuscular or nocturnal, depending on who you ask. So they don't really need a UVB. It is beneficial for them. She doesn't currently have it, but she is going to be getting it with her upgraded enclosure. But it is good for them to have UVB, but it's not a necessity. But they, like I said, they do need a day and night cycle. So I have a lamp on her enclosure that's just like a light, and it doesn't emit any heat. It's on like a timer. So yeah, I just give them a day and night cycle so that they know when to wake up and when to go to sleep. Alright, so for humidity. So humidity is important because when your snake sheds, you want them to have a full shed. You don't want them to have a flaky shed. If your snake is having a flaky shed, then it's probably due to humidity. It's a little debatable for a lot of people, but their humidity needs to be somewhere between 35 and 50%. If you're noticing those shedding issues, boost up that humidity a little bit. When they are in shed, when you do see like the blue eyes and like they're really dull, like they're in blue, then just simply boost their humidity a little bit up, just a little bit while they're in that shed. You can also offer them a humid hide. I've never done this for mine, I've never needed to, but you can. You pretty much just take like a hide, put some moss in it, and they'll go in there because it's more humid, and they should have a nice shed that way. Don't leave that in all the time, just when they're shedding, because I've heard of a lot of snakes that will just go right in and they won't leave, and they'll get scale rot. Because too much humidity can also be a problem. If you have too much humidity, it's not good. It can also cause respiratory infections. So it's just good all around to just try for the proper humidity.
This is a wonderful example of what you're looking for when a snake's in shed. See those blue eyes and how dull he is? So Timon usually looks like Clementine with her bright oranges and reds, but as you can see, he's more of like browns, and he has those really, really, really blue eyes, which are very pretty, but it means he is going to shed any day now. So if I had to give him a humid hide, I would probably pop it in today, considering that. So the reason that they get that blue color is actually because snakes don't have eyelids, they have eye caps. So they have a very thin layer of skin over their eyes, and when they shed, they'll shed their eye caps as well. So that means that they have this oil that is put in between their new skin and their old skin. So that blue is the oils secreting inside of there. So it's very hard for them to see when they're like this, and it's honestly best to just leave them alone, because he can't see well. So I would not bother him by taking him out. I'm only recording this because he so happened to come out to say hello, because I'm sure he heard me talking out here and he just got a little curious. I'm going to leave him alone now, but I don't ever recommend holding them or anything when they're like this. Some snakes will eat. Don't count on it. Both of my corns will eat in this state, but don't count on yours doing that.
So with a lot of the important enclosure aspects out of the way, let's go into setting it up and decorating, because that's everyone's favorite part. So for substrate, you can use a lot of different things. The most popular thing I have ever seen used for corn snakes would be aspen, and I use aspen for a very long time. Aspen's great for holding tunnels and it's soft. I just don't prefer it anymore myself. It just didn't hold the humidity in like I wanted to, and it can hold a lot of bacteria, and it can be kind of dusty. But some people also just use dry eco earth by itself. That's really dusty as well, and I don't personally recommend it, but some people do, so there's that. You can get cypress mulch, you can get Reptichip, you can do forest floor as well, which I've heard is very good. I just switched my corn snakes over, I think at the beginning of this year, to Reptichip and dry eco earth. I just mixed it up and put it in, and I mean, it doesn't hold tunnels as well as aspen, but I really like it a lot more. It holds their humidity much better, and it's not as dusty. Some people do use paper, like paper towel, newspaper, stuff like that, and you can get away with it. For corn snakes, I don't really recommend it unless they're in a quarantine phase, because they like to burrow. At least some of them do. I know most corn snakes really like to burrow. So I don't recommend paper. They will get underneath it, and they will probably just poop all over your glass, and it's not as enriching, I suppose. It's not as natural. So I don't recommend it, but you can do it. I know that people have done it. If you want to use a bedding I haven't listed, then look into it. It might be fine. Because that's definitely, I'm sure, not all the substrates you can use for corn snakes. That's just the popular ones that I have come across. So as for decor and what you're going to put in this enclosure, you're going to need at least 2 hides, at least. One on the warm end and one on the cool end. So, that way they have a secure place that they can settle in, no matter what, like if they want to be cool or hot. Caves or hides do need to be fully enclosed. So like, see this half log here? That's a terrible example. You can give them a half log, but it cannot be one of the 2 hides. Both of the hides need to be fully enclosed so they actually feel secure. You're going to want at least 1 water bowl, just so that, you know, obviously they need something to drink. So you're going to want at least 1 water bowl. I also recommend that you use a chlorinator in your water. So I use Reptisafe for all of my animals. I just treat their water and it gets rid of the chlorine, because here in the US at least we do have chlorine in our water. So it's, to me, it's important to dechlorinate your pet's water. There are other brands, that's just the one I use. You're also going to want a lot of foliage and enrichment. So you're going to want lots of fake plants that they can hide in and climb on and interact with. I would also recommend giving them something to climb on, like something really sturdy like a stick or a piece of decor. Something that will definitely hold their weight up, because a lot of corn snakes like to climb. You can also use leaf litter. You just sprinkle around basically leaves that have been treated around, just so again they have something to hide in and interact with and stuff. You're also going to want something rough, so you're going to want to put something else in that would be rough for them to rub up against when they're shedding. So you can also put rocks and stuff like that. Just don't put anything like sharp in their enclosure. You know, you don't want them to get hurt or anything. Oh, never ever ever put a heat rock in your enclosure, ever. Bad stuff. Don't do it. Don't use heat rocks. Don't use like red lights or the blue lights or anything. They don't need that. They just don't. It can be more hazardous than it can be good. Just don't do it. Alright, so as you can see, she has a water bowl. She has a hide there. She's probably about to go into. And then she has all this foliage. She has this to climb on, another hide back there. Her heat and her light fixture are up here. So this is her enclosure. Here's my other corn snake's enclosure. This is the stunted one. This is the 25-gallon for now. He will also be getting an upgrade relatively soon. His heating and lighting is the pretty much exact same. It's also connected to a thermostat. As you can see, he has a hide over here, the warm end, the hide over here on the cooler end. You can't get as good of a gradient with this size, unfortunately, but he has a lot of foliage. He has this thing to climb on, and he has a little hide up here that he really enjoys because he really likes to climb. So I just thought I'd show you his as well as Clementine's. His upgraded enclosure will basically be the exact same type of setup with obviously more stuff. I do want to say that I do prefer these front opening enclosures a lot more than I prefer the top opening enclosures like Clementine's in. It's definitely better because whenever you come in like this, it'll almost to them seem like a talon from like perhaps a bird or some other predator. So it's much better for you to come in from the front. But overall, I also just like how aesthetically pleasing it is and how it's much easier to get into. But I just wanted to point that out too. Hi, Timon. Hi, buddy. Alright, so to maintain your enclosure being clean, you just have to spot clean every day. So that doesn't mean you have to clean anything like every single day. It does mean that you have to go to the enclosure and like look around and make sure there's no like poop or urites. And if there is, you just clean it out, throw it away, you're good to go. You should also change out their water every day. So just take their bowl out, dump it out, maybe even wipe it out, because sometimes it gets kind of gross because of their saliva. And then just fill it back up so they have fresh water every single day. And then you do a deep clean once a month would be my recommendation, which just means you take everything out, give everything a good clean, change out the substrate completely, and it's all fresh. This is, of course, unless you're bioactive. Again, this is for basic care with non-bioactive setups. But other than that, that's about it. They're not a huge amount of work. Alright, so what do corn snakes eat? So corn snakes eat rodents, typically. As babies, they will probably eat pinkies, and then they will just go up. I've heard of some corn snakes eating like a jumbo mouse every other week or so. I've never really heard of corn snakes eating rats. She's had a small, like a rat pup before, but they're also very fatty, so I don't really recommend rat pups. She just ate it because another animal wouldn't, so she became my garbage disposal for the day. She is on adult mice every week. She does get an adult mouse. I I've never really had her be picky about her feeding. I know some snakes will get kind of picky. I've never had that problem with Clementine or Timon either. Corn snakes are usually really good eaters, so you shouldn't have any problems with trying to get them to eat. But yeah, that's her diet. So right now, she is on adult mice every week, and he is on hoppers every week. Again, he's also an adult. He's not normal. I do have a pro and con list for corn snakes. I will put that, I think it's up there. Maybe up there. I think it's up there though. I'll put that up there for you, so you can go check that out after this one. Again, also, don't just take my word. Plenty of people have made corn snake care guides. Plenty. If you're getting to my video, I don't know how you found mine before you found the other ones, honestly. But they're great care guides that are probably so much better than this one. So go check those out. Definitely get more opinions than just mine. Get information from everywhere when it comes to keeping animals. You don't have to use all of the information you gather. Like, some of it can be controversial, but definitely, like, go look into it anyway. So once again, this was all basic care. This was not, like, expert level care or anything like that. This was just the bare basics you need to know. But really, the only way that you're really gonna learn is by experience. So you should do as much research as possible to get everything set up, everything ready to go, and then continue to learn and continue to keep your mind open, because things in the reptile community change all the time. Like I said, when I started keeping Clementine, which wasn't even like a long time ago, it may have been about 3 years ago, this was the minimum size requirement, and now the minimum size requirement is double this. So it's just, it changes, but it changes for the good. So just keep your mind open to all of that. Don't get upset if someone's telling you new information, because new information is how we improve our care and how we make sure our animals are thriving. It's just too common that I see someone that has been keeping for a very long time who hasn't looked at a care guide since they got the animal, and they're just not open to new ideas or new advice. They're very closed off from all of that. Don't be that person. Always be open, always be willing to upgrade your standards on husbandry. Again, we don't want these animals to just live in our care. We want them to thrive, and we want them to live their best possible lives with us. And to do that, you need to be able to take in new advice. So that's all I really had to say about that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too incredibly long. If it was, I'm sorry. I just wanted to get as much information as I possibly could. Don't forget to follow me over on Instagram. The link will be down in the description below. Yeah, give this video a like if it helped you or you just enjoyed it in general. Leave a comment down below as well. Let me know if you have a corn snake or if you're planning on getting one, or if you just watch this because you like corn snakes. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more content. I post every single Friday at 3 p.m. But if you don't remember that, you can always just ring the bell. And as always, I will see you next week. Bye!